You're listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast with your host and bourbon-soaked storyteller, Juliette Miranda.
Hey there, y'all. It's Juliette Miranda, and this is episode 117 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. I'm doing things up a little bit differently today. Instead of my usual bourbon-soaked storytelling, I'll be talking about stand-up comedy and sharing some conversations that I've had with some of the best comedians on the scene today. But first, what do you say we have a little bourbon? Fill up those glasses, y'all. Now raise them up, and let's say cheers. Oh, bourbon. Today I am drinking Larceny bourbon straight up. This is my go-to cocktail. I know I've talked about it before, but I will tell y'all again. It's a wheated bourbon, and it is so easy to drink. Just full of soft, sweet, and gentle oaky flavors. I wanted to keep things simple today and instead focus on comedy. I have a bit of a thing for comedy. Oh, my interest isn't quite as unfortunate as my fascination with music once was. But as a writer and as someone who loves to tell a story, I gotta say I find stand-up comedy to be essential and fascinating and just plain awesome. Over the past 2 years, I've had the chance to talk to some of my very favorite stand-up comedians on this podcast. And goddamn it, I swear I will get Bill Burr on this damn show if it is the last thing that I do. But here's my confession. It is crazy hard to actually interview a comedian. Because there's no nailing down what comedy is. I will tell you this much, though. These are some of the most fun conversations that I have ever had. So today, I want to share some great moments from those talks, and at the same time, maybe give you a little bit of insight into what comedy means to me. First up, we're going to be hearing from Bobby Slayton. I'm always torn if I should ask a comic about their influences. I feel like this is a little bit of a hack question, but the truth is, I really like knowing where things come from. And I like how Bobby puts it in this clip.
Yeah, Klein was the guy. I mean, Klein, to every generation of comics, if you talk to black comics, in the last 30 years, they looked at Cosby and Pryor. And then you talk to the next generation of black comics, and it was always, is there Eddie Murphy? And then, and then it was Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, and everybody looked to this guy. And so for my generation of comedians, most of the white Jewish guys from New York, like Seinfeld, and if you talk to Larry Miller, a lot of those guys, it was Robert Klein, because he was the guy, the baby boomer guy. We were young baby boomers. He was an old baby boomer. We were in our 20s. He was in his 30s. So Klein was the guy that talked about a lot of stuff we knew about. New York City or the Little Rascals, but real pop culture references. And then I know a lot of the Irish Catholic or, comics. It was George Carlin. And I love both of them. I loved a lot of comics. But if there was one guy who was the guy that I didn't style myself after because I'm nothing like him, but the one guy who the kind of comic I wanted to be would have been Robert Klein. And then after I was doing it for about a year or two, people started telling me, hey, you remind me of Lenny Bruce. And I had heard of Lenny Bruce. It's amazing. I had no idea really who he was. We'll go back to 1976, 77. And, I was already 21 years old, and I didn't really know a lot about Lenny. I'd heard about him, but he wasn't on TV all that much. So I started reading about Lenny Bruce, and I really was nothing like him. The only comparison was, if you're a little dirty or you're a little un-PC, or if you're, that's that kind of style. So Lenny, I thought, well, there's a little bit of Lenny, who was the guy that I kind of wanted to be. But, then I even listened to Howard Stern. I used to do his show, and even Howard Stern, I said, well, this guy will say anything and get a laugh. And I thought, well, Howard's really cool. So, and then people don't believe this, but Jay Leno was one of the best stand-ups ever. And every young comic loved Jay Leno. They all have mixed feelings about him now. I still love Jay, but at the Comedy Store, the Improv, when I first started out, Jay would go on late at night. And most people didn't know who he was. He'd been on a lot of, daytime talk shows, but he would blow the crowd. He was just amazing. So, I learned a little bit from all these guys. And I think that every comic, when you start out, you can see the influence until you grow into your own character. And I don't know if it's a character, because I'm kind of the same off stage as I am on stage, but a little bit more magnified, I guess, up there. A little bit more of an asshole on stage than I am off stage, is what people tell me. People tell me I'm really a nice guy, and I'm nothing like that guy. But I don't know. You know, I have people come to my shows and say I'm the greatest comic they've ever seen in their life, and then I have people go, "You're the worst comic. How do you ever get a job?" And, you know, so it's like, you know, it's that's the kind of world we live in. People love Donald Trump and think the Olive Garden is good Italian food. So what the fuck can I tell you?
I have such respect for comics, partly because I know that it's something I could never do. I like being alone in my dark podcast studio. And I know I really just don't have the quick wit that it takes to go out on stage and make people laugh. And that's why I adore Bob Levy. He is always ready with a comeback. Here he is talking about his start and why he'd make a good hitman.
I figured out, I didn't really figure it out. My friend Buddy did. And growing up in Staten Island, like we used to see who had the toughest bar, you know, or neighborhood, you know, Great Kills I was from. Then you had Stapleton, you had this, you had all these different names of towns. So when somebody came into our bar, my job was to go over and make fun of them so they wanted to fight us. That's how my friend said to me, he goes, "You're pretty funny. You should try comedy." And I was like, "What are you fucking talking about?" And I went to Rascals and did an open mic, and Jackie was there. And I did really good. And, you know, I kept going there. They would give me a number because there was so many comedians, probably at that point more than there is today, but not as much as a mess, you know. And now somebody can fucking have a YouTube channel and a headline at a comedy club while I'm fucking sitting at home with my dick in my hand. But that's their fault, and the business will fall because of that. But the whole thing is that I went there once a week for 2 years, and next thing you know, I'm headlining. And I knew nothing about the business because nobody helped me. And I go to a club, and I see these two other comedians there, and I go, "Who booked you here?" And they go, "Tony Camacho." I go, "He booked me here." And they go, "Well, he books the room." And I had no idea how it worked. You know, it was the weirdest fucking thing, trying to figure out the business. And then, you know, you meet comedians around that you know, or people that come to your show that want to be comedians, and you end up being friends with them, and they're local and they're near you. And I had a drinking problem, and I helped out a lot of people.
Well, now, what about today? How has your approach to your act changed? I mean, considering, like you said, audiences are different. You know, people are way more politically correct. Clubs are different. So what's changed in your material?
Nothing has changed. I don't give a fuck. When I do a show, I go out there to kill for those people. I do the show for those people in the audience. I'd be the best killer in the world because I will stab you in the face with a smile on my face. So that's how I do my comedy. So I can basically say anything and get away with it. But I read the room, and I know what not to do and what to do. And, you know, so it's just different now. Now you have like the club owners hosting, you know, to save money. And it's a totally, after this summer, you're going to see clubs close. You'll see.
What I find fascinating is just how quick-witted you are. You know, just the fact that you've got so much going on, you're working this room. How do you just keep it all organized in your head when you're out there?
Well, the whole thing is, one thing, you know, even though I didn't graduate high school, I'm able to think like 4 or 5 things in my head as I'm talking. So as I'm doing a joke, I can see somebody walking. I can think about the joke that got the laugh before it. I can think about maybe where I want to go or what I'm going to do after this one. So it basically, that makes you quick. You know, that's why nobody gets up to go to the bathroom when I hit the stage.
Because they are in for trouble.
Well, they're done. You know what I mean? I've actually grabbed people, picked them up, and put them back in their seat and go, "Look, I got to piss too, but you ain't getting up when I'm up," you know?
For starters, it's just rude to do that in the middle of a set. So, yeah, call them out.
Yeah, you got a bad bladder. That's not my problem. Stay in a fucking hospital, you loser.
Exactly. You shouldn't be going out and drinking at a club.
Well, yeah, if you can't handle your drink through fucking 2 bad acts and a headliner, They're like, hey, we got this new local guy. He's really fucking funny. And then he's fucking following you around the whole weekend, and you just want to fucking hit him with a sledgehammer.
One of the first comedy interviews that I did was with Rae Pryor. This is a woman who does it all. She's a comedian, a writer, a singer. And what continues to inspire me so much is how she completely sets her own rules and just blows away expectations.
You know, I think for me, I found my niche as being the daughter of somebody. You know, I don't live there. Like, I don't live in the shadow of, I don't feel an obligation to be something that I'm not. I just feel an obligation to fully be self-aware of myself.
In not wanting to follow in your dad's footsteps, how do you overcome people's expectations?
Not care. It's not for me to live up to your expectation. My dad is my dad. I'm not Richard Pryor. First of all, I have a vagina. Like, I'm not going to be him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I wear lipstick. Like, I'm not going to be Richard Pryor. I'm going to be Rae Pryor, you know, and I do what I do. And I try to do what I do well, just as he tried to do what he did well. And so I don't feel like I have to, I don't feel I have to live up to that, you know, because if I did, like I said, I'd be in rehab, you know, and making porn somewhere and famous.
Well, you've taken such an intelligent and deliberate career path. I mean, even with your work on Head of the Class, you didn't follow the classic audition callback process. You know, and I still never have. Every part I've gotten has either been handed to me, literally, or it's been a very strange audition type of process where it's either in someone's home, or I've gone to one level to the next level and then you get the part, or they've written a part around something like, you know, Head of the Class was written by a character I created. So they created that character, TJ, around a character I had called Juanita Jackson. Then I did Rude Awakening after that, and that was a different kind of audition process. And I would say that was my first kind of real audition process, but I ended up still getting the part. Then I did a Michael Jackson thing, and that was in someone's home, and I got the part. And then I just did a film where they wrote me a role in the film. It's just been things that are like that for me. And even with my solo show, it's like, why try to fit into a box that someone wants to put you in? Instead, let me create a box and show you this is who I am. And it comes with circles and triangles and, you know, rectangles, I guess. Now, I mentioned that Rae Pryor is a writer. And one question that I've asked nearly every comedian is whether or not they consider themselves to be a writer. And the answer is typically a resounding no. I've always felt that this is just a little bit harsh. I mean, considering the skill that it takes to create an entire stand-up set. But with Anthony Cumia, the conversation was a little different. He is very clear that he is not a comedian, but he is funny. And he makes an excellent point about the connection between comedy and storytelling.
Not in the literal sense where, you know, the guys that get up on stage every night and get in front of a mic and a crowd, and I'm amazed by that. That amazes me. It just seems like the most frightening thing to do, wondering as you're saying something if there's going to be a laugh at the end of it or not. And if there isn't, how do you then go on to the next one and stay up there for that long if things aren't working? To me, it's just frightening. So in that sense, no. And I would never take that moniker because I respect comics so much. I think I'm a comedic broadcaster more so. I think my forte is definitely behind a microphone that's being broadcast out in some way, shape, or form instead of being there in front of a live crowd. But yeah, like a comedic broadcaster, I think. Doesn't sound funny, but that's pretty much what it is.
Well, I mean, in the end, it's still just you, and you're broadcasting live with, you know, people watching you. So it's a small distinction, but I think it comes down to storytelling also, which is what I love about a good comedian. It's just how well they engage you with their whole story.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to tell a story it's a talent. It really is amazing. And you realize it when someone's just telling a bad story.
Yeah.
You realize, oh, that's how it's not done. It's gotta grab someone's interest. It's gotta have a rhythm to it and a crescendo and a finish. It can't be too long, but you need the details in there. And it really is concocting a story, especially a true story, to make something that happened to somebody funny. It's a talent. And when you watch people do it well, it really is great to listen to and to laugh to.
For me, some of my best stories, obviously, have started with bourbon. But for Ari Shafir, it seems that a lot of his great stories start with mushrooms. Ari happened to give me a great deal of advice on how to take mushrooms properly. And I have to admit, he was rather right about it. Although after hearing this story, I did have a few, hesitations.
Nothing bad ever happens to anyone on psychedelics. It just really does not happen. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Anything bad happens to people. So any thought you get of, like, your heart exploding or anything like that, like, those are just the drug fucking with you. So it's not going to happen. Nobody wanders off and gets lost. You've never heard that story from a real source. You just seen it in movies and stuff. Like, you might take off your clothes and wander around, but you'll be fine. You'll make it back, and it'll just be a fun adventure. Like, nothing bad will happen to you. You don't lose reality. You're not going to walk up a cliff. It's just not going to happen.
And then what happens if I start to panic? What happens then? What, just lay down, chill out?
Okay, here's what you can do. This is the mystical thing. I don't know why this works. I think it's just like Nietzsche talks about when you put vocalization on something, it becomes way stronger in your mind. If you don't like a person, you sort of have a sense you don't like them. You can deal. You can have fun days with them once in a while. But you just overall kind of don't like it. Once you say out loud, I don't like Tom. I just don't like that guy. From then on, you cannot even have the good days anymore because it makes it so much stronger inside you. So maybe it's because of that. But sometimes if I just talk to the mushrooms, so it sounds stupid. It's like, hey guys, hey mushrooms, can you please pull this back a little bit? It's getting a little too much. Even if it's whispering, if you really can't do it in front of anyone because you're way too embarrassed, and you can't go to the bathroom, then just even really think it out loud in your head. And it's weird, but it just responds. Like
and that works.
Pulls it back. Yeah. If you get a little nauseous, just sit down and look up and breathe in and out a little bit. You probably won't throw up, but if you do, it won't be one of the bad throw-ups. You'll be laughing halfway through the barf. Like, it won't matter, but I've only thrown up once ever. I was in Scotland, and I did them, and I had that theory, and it's a proven theory. It's never been proven wrong by any story I've ever heard. And he like, well, this happened to me. It's like, yeah, you were fine. You were fine, and it's well worth the story. Like, I had a friend who got arrested getting naked. He's chasing after his friend who had left 45 minutes earlier. And he's like, no, I'm going to go get him. And he just ran outside on Fountain Avenue in L.A., in the middle of West Hollywood. Just
oh, God.
3:30 p.m. with his clothes all off.
Of course.
And he got arrested instantly. But that's it. He was fine, and then he got let out.
Right.
It was crazy, but it wasn't like nothing lasting happened to him. It was done. Nothing happened. Oh, so my friend, he got convinced. We all took him. We were going to climb up this mountain, this like Central Park type mountain, Runyon Canyon type mountain, but like bigger than that in Edinburgh, called Arthur's Seat. We're going to go up there and stay up there and watch the sunrise. And we took him, and he got in his head that he was on a hidden camera show that me and the other guy were in on, and we were fooling him. And all the street lights he thought were cameras. And every time we're like, no, calm down. Like, we're not doing that. He was like, of course you'd say that because you're filming me. This part, you want me to believe you because of the show. And at some point, he kept running away from us, and we kept trying to get him, like, calm him down. And at some point, I realized, like, we're not going to calm him. Like, there's no way to calm him down. And also, like, we can't bring him up on the mountain with us. Him running away from us. So, like, let him go. And then my friend Evan was like, well, we got to make sure he's home safe. And I was like, no, I know this. He'll be safe. And it was like, all right. And it was like, hey, we just yelled as we was yelling, running away from us in the darkness, like be careful crossing the roads. See you tomorrow. And then that was it. He was gone.
And then he was
the next
gone.
day at like 11 a.m., he like texted me and he's like, oh, sorry if I just got weird. I know I freaked out. He goes, you don't have my cell phone, do you? And I was like, oh, no. But if you don't have it, your cell phone's gone. You threw it away or something. Yeah, you probably thought he was recording you or something. Yeah, yeah, you're not getting that back. But yeah, he was fine. And you will be too. All four of you will be completely fine.
In talking about the things that influence an act, something that always comes up is social media. We've all had our battles with trolls and keyboard commandos and social justice warriors. But Steve McGrew has found that it has some unexpected advantages as well.
Well, yeah, because it may implode on itself. You know, the way that they eat their young these days. But you're right about social media. Like, I have now over 100,000 followers on Twitter. That's because I love Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. I constantly write and reply, and I work it. And you're right about it making a larger audience. Like, I've got people that are following me around the world. And I think that's helped. And the guy that books me in Hong Kong said that, you know, that a lot of people, because of the internet, know who I am.
Well, yeah, but then, you know, also there's that sticky downside. You know, you've got all these people out there. So what are you going to do when things go bad?
Yeah, that sticky downside is horrible because you can't get in a fight with somebody on the internet. You're going to lose.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever battled a troll?
I have. I've gone too far. I've taken it all the way to, if you're going to make me mad, I'm going to make your ears bleed. That's the way I will take you down. Well, then by the time you take them down, the people watching the battle are like, she didn't deserve that. You're an asshole, you know.
Well, sure, but then it becomes mob mentality.
Right. And then the mob gets on you, and you can't shake it off. It'd be like a pack of wolves getting on you. You're going down if 50 people decide they don't like your tweet. But that's helped me. And my writing, I have found that writing for Twitter has actually helped me in my own comedy writing, because I'm trying to be sparse with words and how can I say this with the least amount. And then once you get it becomes just the punchline, which is great, because now all I have to do is write a bit to fit the punchline.
That's interesting. I never really thought of it that way, but I can totally see how it would make you think more concisely.
Because you start looking for things just to, like one the other day I wrote, I think it was today, I don't trust people that don't put ketchup on their scrambled eggs. Just a thought like that.
Yeah.
That everybody's comment, you start going, this could turn into a bit. This is about breakfast food. This is about the condiments that go on breakfast food. So it's just finding a grain can make it grow.
One of the things that I appreciate most in comedy is honesty. And that is why I absolutely love Jim Norton. Nothing is too personal for him. Nothing is off limits. He and I talked a lot about how audiences and perceptions about comedy are changing today. But the one thing that hasn't changed for Jim is his approach.
You have to do what feels honest in the moment. Like, I want it to be funny, but it's like my approach isn't any different. Like, I talk about politics the same way I always talked about it. I haven't changed any of that. No, I don't think my approach has changed, other than the fact that I'm less afraid now of what they are going to think.
I was listening to a debate that you did with Lindy West a while back regarding rape jokes in comedy. And what I appreciated so much was the argument that you made about media and how it contributes to violence in a way that comedy never could.
Right.
Do you think that comedy now is really kind of our last honest reaction to society?
I wouldn't say it's the last one, but it's the last one that kind of, I would say, I'm trying to say it's the last one that kind of reacts without consequence. But now there are consequences for it. So I can't even say that accurately. You know what I mean? It used to, like, what was Mel Brooks's quote? I just tweeted this recently. Comedy is the lecherous little elf that whispers into the ear of the king, always telling the truth about human behavior. That was a great quote by Mel Brooks. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that is what it is. It's like you're just trying to tell the truth about what it is we do. And now people are blaming the truth you're telling instead of looking at all of us going, look what we do. I still try to talk about what we do. Like, I don't give a shit about Trump. He's not the problem. We are. We are the problem. The way we judge politicians, the way we, whatever the politics are, we are the problem, not the assholes we put in office. It's us.
In hearing all of these comics talk, the one thing that comes through the most is a lack of fear. And it's not just in going out and wanting to make people laugh, but in presenting themselves as they are and casting a light on society as we are. Which brings me to Nick DiPaolo, who sums it all up perfectly here.
Absolutely. And I don't do that. The funny has to come first. Otherwise, you turn into Janine Garofalo. I say that kidding. I actually love Janine, and I love her comedy. We started together in Boston. She was like a year ahead of me. And my friends can't believe that I like her comedy, which I do, and I like her. But I'm just saying, she went through a period where she seemed to get a little preachy. But she was always smart and funny. And at least I found it. And my friends think I just say that because I was attracted to her 10 years ago. Nothing? Juliette, hello.
I'm not going there. I got nothing.
Oh, like 20 years ago. But no, you know what I mean? So, things are changing. I mean, people are, I don't know, the country's so media-driven. You know what I noticed? Like, people are so, because of social media, they all think, they think they're TV stars with their faggy, fake Facebook friends and shit.
Well, yeah, they all think they have a voice.
Yeah, and they fucking shouldn't. How's that for Nazism? But no, they should. But they should have a voice. They just shouldn't use it as much. I don't really give a shit that you're at Burger King on Tuesday at 3 p.m. feeding a pigeon. Who gives a fuck? Unless you shoot up the place, I don't want to see it live. All right. Hey, that was kind of funny. I'm going to put that in my act.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah, but I noticed, they're in comedy clubs, before the show starts, they don't even hesitate about, going up on stage and taking a picture behind the microphone. You know what I mean? Kind of a disrespect for it. Because nobody's shy anymore. You know what I mean? Or if you talk to somebody in the audience, they'll grab the mic right out of your hand. I remember when I first went to a comedy club before I was a comedian, I would never, you know what I mean? People used to be afraid to get up to take a piss during a set. Now they'll walk right on the stage to get to the bathroom.
That's incredible. I mean, where's the boundary now?
I don't know. To me, it's getting blurred. And again, because of social media. And I'm not saying it's all bad. Social media is great. So, I can tell people where I'm going to be and whatnot. But I'm amazed at some of my comic friends. Every time I, pick up the phone and check whatever, Instagram or Twitter, they're fucking on there doing something. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, do they ever talk to anybody? But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're stand-up comics, so no, they're probably alone in their shitty apartment all day. I wish I was better at the technology. Luckily, I have my wife is, 40 times smarter than me, and I'm not just saying it to be PC, it's true. And I said, please immerse yourself in how to market me on Facebook. And she did for 3 weeks, didn't come out of her office. So that's the positive aspect, but everybody has a voice now, and we're so divided. It's just, it's wearing me out,
Well, you seem to be doing all right. I mean, you've managed to figure out how to put up a podcast.
Yeah, ask Rob Sprance, the guy who taught me. He's getting out of rehab next week, I think.
Did you put him there?
Yeah, of course. That's what I meant. That was 3 years ago he taught me. But I'm always calling him going, hey, this thing won't record. What the fuck? And he's at work. He's at work, at a new job. And he's like, I can't talk right now. I'm like, bullshit. I got to do a podcast.
He's like, figure it out.
We do that join me thing. He gets on so he can look at my computer.
Oh, sure.
He's like, hey, when's the last time you plugged in your computer, you dumb greaseball? I'm like, okay. Don't talk to me like that, bitch.
Well, y'all, it's true. The funny has to come first. Thanks so much for listening to this bonus episode of the Unwritable Rant podcast. All of the comedians that I spoke with are out there working today. You can find them on the road touring, on Netflix, on XM, and on their own podcasts and YouTube specials. Be sure to check them all out. As for me, you can find me at theunwritablерant.com. Or hit me up on Twitter. I am at Morning Neurosis. And now, I'm going to go and suck back some more bourbon because this weekend I am a little under the weather. But don't worry, y'all. I will be back next weekend to share more bourbon-soaked stories. Hope you all have a great week. Cheers, y'all.
Go to theunwritablerant.com and sign up to get early access to interviews and new videos. You can hear new episodes of The Unwritable Rant on RadioVegas.rocks every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern and on IPMNation.com on Saturdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And hear best of episodes every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to connect with Juliette on Twitter at Morning Neurosis.
Girl, you was pretty as a Sunday morning, standing on the corner at Carondelet. What you say we make our way up to Bourbon, a couple hurricanes and a hand grenade, and get blown away. Let the chips fall where they may. If it's all the same, what you say, bon ton, hey, pretty mama, I can smell the gumbo. Sweet as taste of honeysuckle on my lips. Good God Almighty, I can hear the trombone. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this. Come a little closer, honey, let me hold you. Nothing tastes better than a bourbon kiss. You can be the flower on my magnolia. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this.